If you're anything like me and watched anime for a long time, you've probably had that moment where a trope that you used to absolutely love starts to suddenly get on your last nerve and makes a show unwatchable for you. Maybe it's because you've seen it 1,000 times, maybe your tastes have changed as you got older, or maybe you just started noticing things that never bothered you before. Today, I wanted to talk about some anime tropes that I used to enjoy, but now I honestly can't really stand them. First up, yanderes. When I first got into anime, I thought yandere characters were really interesting. I loved how ruthless they were, and how deep someone's devotion and love could go was astounding to me when I was younger. I also enjoyed a sick and twisted plot every now and again, to be honest. And to this day, depending on the plot, I think twisted stuff like, say, Killing Game media is really entertaining to me. Good examples of characters like these would be Yuno Gasai from Future Diary, Misa Amane from Death Note, and Haruna Neikawa from Durarara. All great shows that I totally recommend, but all are also very crazy, so fair warning to those wanting to watch them that haven't already. Although, with each character's pros, there were also cons. I won't get into a full character analysis on any of them today. I'm just thinking that with each of these, I should give an example of the type of character that I'm referencing when I say these things. And a disclaimer for you, no, I don't dislike any of the characters I'm listing here. They are all some of my favorite characters from the animes they are from, but that also doesn't mean that I'm a fan of all characters that are like this. Honestly, I'm not sure what exactly at the time made me enjoy this character type. I guess the idea of someone being so obsessed with another person that they do anything for them seemed dramatic and exciting, and most of these characters I discovered at around the ripe age of like 11 or 12 years old, and I was touch-starved, so I thought that was romantic, and it really wasn't. But characters like that, I must say, always made the story feel unpredictable, because you never knew what was going to happen next or what they were going to do next. But now? Most yanderes just make me uncomfortable. A lot of them aren't actually romantic at all. They're possessive, controlling, and sometimes just outright abusive. What used to seem like intense devotion now just feels like a giant walking red flag. And don't get me wrong, there are still a few well-written yandere characters out there, but something about them just makes me so uncomfortable now that it becomes a hard watch. Maybe it's because I don't really like as many characters that allow their development to rely on a single person. Or maybe it's because Yandere Simulator and Yandere High School put a bad taste in my mouth about it as I got older. Who really knows? But I will say that if a show has a well-written story built around the character, safe to say I'd probably still watch it. And that brings us to number 2, the accidental pervert. And when I say that, most of you should know exactly what I'm talking about. The main character trips and falls and somehow ends up face first in someone's chest. A strong gust of wind reveals something that it shouldn't. Someone walks into a room at the worst possible moment and gets accused of being a creep. Some examples would be Kirito from Sword Art Online, Goku from Dragon Ball, and even Edward Elric from Full Metal Alchemist. When I was younger, I didn't really think much about these scenes because they were everywhere, and sometimes to me they were a little funny. Now I mostly just roll my eyes. The joke is always the same, well, almost always, and after seeing it hundreds of times, it feels less like comedy and more like the writers couldn't think of another joke. It also is a very weird trope to add in my opinion, since a lot of the time it's being pervy towards minors, since a lot of the shows with those tropes involve them as main characters, and on top of that, it just makes the character dynamic feel weird, especially if it's the male lead and female lead to me. Because how can you think he's a creep one minute and then the next you're falling for him? I don't know. That just isn't how it works, and it's low-key toxic behavior if there isn't a scene buffering it where the character gets a chance to explain themselves. I know it's one of those tropes that is meant to be comedic relief, but for me it just makes me lose interest, unfortunately, since I'd rather be watching something that makes me feel something, but not discomfort. It adds nothing to the show, and it's overused enough to just make me overall dislike it. And that leads me to number 3, the love triangle. There was a time when love triangles were my favorite part of a show or media. Trust me, my favorite anime is Inuyasha, and I used to binge watch all of the Twilight movies repeatedly. I would know about a love triangle. That's right, I've been in the trenches since childhood. Since day one. Please let me out. Let me out of my cell. Let me out. I'm struggling. I've been here so long. Moving on, some examples would be Inuyasha, Kikyo, and Kagome Higurashi from Inuyasha, Yuki Cross, Zero Kiryu, and Kaname Kuran from Vampire Knight, and Shiryuki, Zen Wisteria, and Obi from Snow White with the Red Hair. I'm so sorry, I know I butchered a lot of these pronunciations, I am just realizing now. Cut me some slack, please. Don't get me wrong though, sometimes it can be interesting and attention-grabbing. Who would the main character choose? Which pairing would win? What dramatic confession was coming next? Now, I mostly just find them saddening. A lot of anime drag them out for way too long and use them for creating artificial drama for sure. But, I mean, I just love me some drama, so, like, that's not my problem. My main issue is knowing that the secondary character exists at all. And I say this because usually the ones I watch have a secondary character that is a good option for the lead. It just ends up being that the main character picks someone else over them. It makes me sad just knowing that they don't get the girl or boy that they want and they are left heartbroken or forced to move on from their love. And they always make it painfully obvious who the winner's gonna be from episode 1, but the story keeps pretending it's a mystery, which makes it even worse because you know what's coming, but it just feels like a car crash. You really can't look away. These days, I'd rather just watch a couple actually get together and grow together throughout the show, rather than spending an entire season watching misunderstandings happen over and over again. And here we are at number 4. This one's honestly my least favorite. It is Taboos. This one is a little bit broader. Anime has gotten way too comfortable, in my opinion, pushing the boundaries with relationships and situations that are supposed to be controversial, simply because they are controversial and will get attention by a shock factor. Some examples I'm referring to are the forbidden love relationships, illegal relationships, or just something that would be generally frowned upon. Like for example, the characters in Brothers Conflict. And yes, I'm referring to all of them. They're all step-siblings, by the way. Or Ruby and Aqua from Oshi no Ko. They're siblings, by the way. Or even Yona and Suwon from Yona of the Dawn. They're cousins, by the way. When I was younger, I thought that made a series feel scandalous or edgy or mature. I honestly at the time didn't even realize how bad some of these things were or the implications of it. As I've gotten older, I've realized that being shocking isn't the same thing as being well written, even if sometimes, like for example in Yona of the Dawn, it is unfortunately just historically accurate. Sometimes a taboo topic can absolutely be explored in an interesting way. Like Snow White with the Red Hair, their take on relationships with people in different social classes is very interesting. But a lot of series just seem to rely on the taboo itself to carry the story on. If the only thing making a relationship plotline interesting is the fact that it's forbidden, that's usually not enough to keep my attention, especially if it isn't legal. I'm looking at you, super lovers, and you too, Yashahime, and can't forget you either, Seven Deadly Sins. Ugh. And here we are at number 5, the stuttering character. I wanted to end the list on a lighter note than taboos, so here we are. Some good examples I can think of now are probably Izuku Deku Midoriya from My Hero Academia, Toko Fukawa from Danganronpa, and Nagisa Shiota from Assassination Classroom. When I first started watching anime, I thought the shy, stuttering characters were cute and endearing. But after a while, I noticed how many of them felt exactly the same. They stumble over every sentence, they can barely speak to anyone, their entire personality revolves around being nervous. Or they just get nervous randomly and start stuttering even though any other time they can have a regular conversation. I don't know. There's nothing wrong with shy characters inherently. In fact, some of my favorite characters are actually shy. The problem is when the shyness becomes their only character trait for me, or it just starts overtaking every other aspect of their personality that I start almost completely ignoring everything else that I like about them because it's being overshadowed by that. A character can be awkward, anxious, and quiet while still feeling like a real person. Too many animes forget that part, in my opinion. What's funny is that I don't think any of the character tropes here are inherently bad, except the illegal and weird shit. That's not really good. but I've seen well-written yanderes, good love triangles, and genuinely funny, occasional accidental pervert scenes. The problem is that after watching anime for years, I've seen these ideas repeated so many times, and the nachos have been reheated so often that they just don't taste the same anymore. My patience for a lot of these tropes have just been getting smaller and smaller over the years, unfortunately. Maybe it's just because I'm getting older. Maybe my tastes have changed. Or maybe I've just watched way too much anime in one lifetime. What about you? What anime tropes did you used to love, but now you can't stand them anymore? Should I do another part to this? Let's be real, no matter what you say, I probably will, just because I can. But that's all for now, though. Crumb out! And for those of you that stayed all the way to the end, here are some outtakes that I thought were a little tee-hee-ha-ha funny to share with you, because I'm not gonna do anything else with that footage, so. Moving on. Some of it... And that leads me to number 3. The love triangle. There was a time where love triangles were some of my favorite parts of shows or media. I shouldn't have changed up the fucking line last minute because I fucked myself up. I'm a fucking moron. Trust me, my favorite anime is Inuyasha. Inuyasha. I can't even say the fucking word right, and it's my favorite show. I'm a fucking fake fan. And that brings me to number 3. The love triangle. I hate the way I say triangle. Triangle. And that leads me to number 3. The love triangle. Triangle. I can't say the word right. I sound so nasally when I speak and say triangle. It's so annoying. You know, I should make these outtakes a little part at the end of the video. Yeah. And that leads me to number 3. The love triangle. I hate saying the word triangle. The stuttering character. Oh yeah, like that. There was like that guy. What's his name? Sakuchi or whatever. He's the one who cheated on his girlfriend repeatedly and said, only 'cause you're here. What the fuck am I doing with my life, bro? Like, genuinely? What the hell? And that leads me to number 3. The love triangle. Oh my god. You know, that guy from A3 who's obsessed with triangles would be really fucking disappointed with me right now. I'm telling you what. And that's a reference only some of you are gonna get. But oh my god. I can finally leave. Martha, I'm coming home, sweetie. I'm back in the fucking building again. Oh my. That's literally how I feel right now. Or like, you know that scene in SpongeBob where he's like, Sponge, I've been waiting for you, Patrick. Like that. I'm literally losing my fucking mind. Please let me out of my prison. I did it. It's about drive. It's about power. We stay hungry. We devour. It's honestly not even that good, but it's better than nothing. Okay, I'm leaving it. I don't fucking care anymore.